I believe the universe brought me my children before I blew up for two reasons. I needed to learn the lesson of respect for the black woman's vagina before I became King Kong.
And so doing a lot of stuff in Skid Row. And this week coming up, we're signing a deal to actually purchase.
You look so good on your live, Dr. Umar. I want to eat you up. At ease, my queen. At ease, my queen. What do you mean you want to eat up the prince? You look so good on your live, I want to eat you up. What do you mean by that, my beautiful African sister? Because if this would have happened after I blew up, see, these situations are pre-Prince of Pan-Africanism. These situations are pre-September 18th, 2010. So the universe needed me to experience this before I came to the world, because if I would have made those mistakes in front of the world, I would have had to vacate my throne. I would have had to get off the throne. So the universe knew that he got some spiritual growth that he needs to get done. So we're going to give him these babies before he blow up, and we're going to let him suffer the pain of his bad decisions. We're going to let him suffer the pain of his bad decisions before we put him out before the world. So both princesses of Pan-Africanism were conceived before the ancestors put me before the world, because I wasn't ready yet. Could you imagine if this would have happened after I blew up? It would be holy hell. So my daughters were conceived before I blew up. And so I've learned my lesson now.
Umar Johnson was still referring to himself as the Prince of Pan-Africanism and King Kong consciousness when he was around the age of 40, 41, 42. Okay, that's when he fell into this whole conscious stripper dilemma. Okay, that whole sex scandal. Okay, and it's also alleged that that's when he had his third child with his third baby mama. Okay, so apparently he never learned his lesson. But the black women who support Umar Johnson, they never learned their lesson either, because I believe about 80% of Umar Johnson supporters are black women. See, I try to convey an unbiased take on this channel because the scriptures say a false balance is an abomination. Okay, this is why there's no accountability for when the school will open from so-called black women. Okay, some channels are incredibly biased, as though Umar Johnson is just abusing these poor women and he doesn't pay his child support and these women can't think for themselves. They're so helpless. No. Okay, some of these things may be true. Okay, the degree to how Dr. Umar Johnson is able to articulate himself and sway the minds of the people. Okay, yes, there's some manipulation there. Okay, but it also goes both ways. Okay, we got to look at the world that we live in. A lot of women are going to Dr. Umar Johnson events for multiple reasons, many reasons. Okay, some are going there for clout. All right, in this world of social media, everyone wants to gnaw at someone else's clout. Okay, without merit, meaning there's no argument, there's no fact checking, no facts are being presented for a reasonable debate. All right, the women are not showing up to Dr. Umar Johnson events with their pen and notepads saying, okay, what date are you going to open the school up? Where's the HVAC? Where's the electrical unit? Has the building been inspected? When are these things going to get done? Okay, do you have some sort of curriculum? All right, from where are you hiring these teachers that are going to be watching over our children? They're not asking any of these questions. They have no type of structure being presented here. Okay, because we live in a world of entertainment. It's just a reflection of what you see on YouTube. 99.5% of content presented on YouTube is trash. All right. And me being a spiritual man, okay, putting things into context using the scriptures, I'm looking at it through spiritual lenses. How the black woman is not asking Dr. Umar Johnson, why is he practicing all of these false religions? Okay. They never rebuke him for serving the divine feminine. And he's publicly making it known who he serves. Okay, those are false feminine deities. Okay, those are man-made gods. All right. Every time you see Umar Johnson, he has beads around his neck or he has something on his wrist and he has these protection stones. That's witchcraft. He said out of his own mouth that the ancestors are here to protect him. Okay. No one call him out for serving another god. Okay. Now in the flesh, we know that he worships the black woman's vagina. Okay. That's why you heard him say, opening up, that he's reflecting on his mistakes for not respecting the black woman's vagina. Really, that's just a segue that he used into triggering something, a subliminal message in the minds of black women. Okay, but nevertheless, I'm going to play a few clips of some things he had to say, which proves that he's into the satanic rituals. And then I'll give my response.
We have to respect the sacredness of the African woman's vagina. No, I'm gonna go real rap. We must respect the sanctity and the sacredness and the divinity of the black woman's vagina. We must do that.
He teaches that the divine is feminine and masculine. Okay, this is all occultic talk. All right, this is heresy and it's not of God. See, Dr. Umar Johnson will lead many to the lake of fire because I believe he also disregards spirit spouses. All right, we got to talk about this. Okay, as I mentioned last week or a few weeks ago, spirit spouses are a plague to the black man and woman. These evil spirits, obviously, there's a veil that separates the spirit realm from the earth realm. Okay, but your body, you're a three-part being. You have a soul, you have a spirit, and obviously you have this flesh, which is an earth shell. Okay, it's a temporary meat suit with an expiration date. When you go to sleep, you're entering into that realm on the other side of the veil. Okay, he's teaching that the dead are still living. When the scriptures say that the dead know nothing, they have no place under the sun. Okay, either they've transitioned on to heaven or they've went to hell. But Umar Johnson is teaching that the ancestors and your sexual energy, talks a lot about energy. Obviously, he's using this as a talking point to persuade the black woman to get in her pants. Okay. Now, how often he does this, Lord knows how often. Now, someday the truth will come out. All right. But from a spiritual standpoint, he's misleading people into thinking that the spirit realm is more merged right now with this earth realm than it will be or than it actually is. You understand? And these are all false teachings. Okay. He's under a spell from a seducing spirit, but nobody's talking about it from this standpoint. Everybody's talking about what's in the flesh, talking about child support. And so now, should men be going out sleeping with women, having children? No, I don't condone that either. But that's not the bigger issue. That's not the underlying issue. Okay, anybody who studies these scriptures and have a relationship with the Most High knows that spirit spouses actually attack the black man's finances. And spirit spouses work through human beings to cause a wedge between the black man and this black woman. All right. In forthcoming videos, I'm going to talk more about this because we being spirit beings, your spirit is a house. Okay. Remember, Christ talked about how he knocks on the doors of your heart. If you would just let him in so he can come down and fellowship with you. Okay, well, demons also knock on the doors of your heart. But anyway, I'm not going to go too deep into that. That's for a whole other video. Let's continue.
Oh, can I ask one more question?
Sure, go right ahead, man.
So, what religion do you subscribe to?
I practice Ifa, and that is the spiritual system practiced by the Yoruba of Nigeria.
Yeah.
And, you know, African spirituality, which is the birther of all of the world religions. All of them come out of African spirituality. Everything they believe in, African people already believed. Generally speaking, you know, God, the deities, life after death,
And every story of every
Jew
was black.
All that comes
black.
from us. All that comes from us.
Everything started.
Yes, indeed.
First.
Yes, indeed.
Definitely.
Moses grew up in Egypt. Jesus spent time in Egypt.
Right.
Many of the names have African syllables and vowels in them. That type of a thing. So it all come from us. But it's basically
Greek alphabet, whatever.
absolutely supreme creator at the top. We on the bottom. Divinities in between, including the ancestors.
Right.
We were born to fulfill a particular purpose.
Sure.
And your life is all about finding and fulfilling your purpose. That's a real extra simple explanation. It's much more complicated, but that's the gut. In heaven, you chose a destiny that God consecrated, and you come to earth to fulfill that.
Right.
And anything you do that doesn't lead you towards the fulfillment of your destiny is going to lead to you feeling depressed, angry, unfulfilled, all of that.
The GPS is stopping.
The reason why Umar Johnson is embracing all religions is because Marcus Garvey, the man whom he's naming the school after, Marcus Garvey was a Christian. So he has to explain that away. Okay, so he has to say, I'm going to embrace all religions, and all religions come from African spirituality, but they teach different things. So they can't all come together. Okay, some religions are absolute. Okay, either there's a heaven or a hell. Either Muhammad is a prophet, just like Jesus, or it's either that or Jesus Christ is God. Okay, and of course on this channel, I teach that Jesus Christ is God. So you can't serve two masters. See, he's teaching that you can serve multiple masters. I mean, how many religions are out there? But because he's trying to expand, and another reason why he teaches that all religions can be embraced is because the Masonic order is another religion. And they have their philosophies and they have their doctrine that they teach. And as you can see here in this picture here, Umar Johnson is taking picture with frat brothers. Okay, so he's saying your race comes first before your religion, which is stupid because the bloodlines are mixed. Okay, a man can have black skin. I talked about this before, how Barry Gordy has black skin. Okay, Quincy Jones had black skin. But if you go back a couple generations from when they were born, their grandfather was white men. That's why they were put over the music industry. You see the hypocrisy there? Okay, so it can't only go by the person's skin color. You got to go by whether or not that person is born again. Whether they receive a new nature, and they can only present that through their character. But anyway, I don't want to make this video too long. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I got more coming up exposing Umar Johnson as a fraud. The spiritual concepts that he presents to people is more of a fraud than anything he's done with the school. Okay, because the consequences are much more severe. You understand? But anyway, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.